Well, greetings and salutations, one and all. Back again is the Super Review Show's career retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show Network. I am joined by my two incredible friends, Kyle and Mike. How are you both doing tonight?
Doing good.
That's good. I guess we're doing all swagalicious, aren't we? Oh, so no, but as the title of our episodes alludes to, whatever we're going to talk about tonight came out back in July, but we're going to discuss tonight Justin Bieber's swag album that just came out. We're so excited to talk about this one tonight, aren't we, gentlemen? So I'm gonna go first. That's okay with both of you guys, because I have a long dated history with this man known as Justin Bieber. I actually don't. I actually truly hate his music, and I hate him as a person. I'm gonna be brutally honest with both of you guys right now. I'm gonna be honest with both of you guys. I have never, ever liked anything he's ever put out ever. But since Kyle was like, we should probably do this to get some more mainstream attention, why not? So, but this is my first time listening to a full album of his. I've heard his hit singles like "Sorry," "Love Yourself," "Let Me Love You" with the DJ Snake thing, whatever it was back in 2018. I forget. Ghosts from 20 Peaches. The guy has had so many hit singles and so much success since Baby in 2009 or 10. It's kind of hard to believe. But I personally have never been a fan of his at all, and that's putting it very, very, very nicely. I respect him as an artist, like just as someone who creates, but that's really the extent of it. So going to this, I was like, man, this is a lot of long tracks, a lot of long, some shorter songs here and there, but some set and some interludes and stuff that I was just not too fond of. But I know that Kyle loves Justin Bieber. He's like the biggest Bieber fanatic out there. Are you a believer, Kyle?
I mean, no, but I really don't hate the guy. I don't, I think that the hatred for him is way overblown. I actually have a decent amount of respect for him. Becoming a child star and having, songs like his original album with Baby and all that, looking back on it, super cringy. They were terrible. Those are objectively bad songs. Moving forward, I think his mid 2010s output, really not bad, serviceable pop songs, some pretty good stuff there. So, and then personally, kind of feel for the guy. No one has left the guy alone since he's been essentially like a preteen. So I feel for him. Don't hate his music. Has had some good things here and there. I'll go into my thoughts on this effort in a little bit, but I mean, it's my initial thoughts.
Mike is he's the most screaming girl Bieber fan you're ever going to meet. Right, buddy?
That is a big negative, sir. Pretty, just, I have no recollection of any of his songs except the Baby and all this kind of stuff. It's just not my world of music. So I haven't really paid attention to much that he's done. Obviously, he's been in, the Despacito, and he's had his kind of songs that come and go, but never listened to an album, never really made anything that he's done part of any playlist, even in a party sense, for fun music, like you're at a barbecue or whatever. Just, never been a fan, never really liked him, and never found anything he's done to be overly a great achievement or having any kind of he didn't gain any notoriety by releasing something that I think has where Usher has taken pointers and he had Justin Bieber, and it wasn't in one of his videos or whatever, Ludacris, whatever, but I haven't felt like he's just had a voracious fan base, that's all, and I think that's what's kept him afloat more so than his music touching every single type of person and bridging the gap between the fan base and an entire world who believes in music. So just never been a fan.
So you heard it here first. That's our initial impressions of Justin Bieber, and let's go into this little masterpiece known as Swag, shall we? Let me jump over to the track listing for a sec here. Do you want me to go first again? It's up to you guys. Whatever my standout tracks are, or is that okay?
Go for it.
All right, cool. So I mean, this is when I first saw this, I said this is a really long album. It's almost an hour long because it's 54 minutes long. And this is my first time listening to an entire Justin Bieber album. And I knew the hit single Daisies because it was all over the radio the moment it dropped. I was like, oh my God, great. This is not good. But that's me. I'm just kidding around. But like in all seriousness, though, like there are a few tolerable songs for me on this album. And also, mind you, this is his first album in 4 years since 2021. Since Justice, apparently. I had no idea. And this is his 7th studio album. I had no idea that he put out 7 albums and he's got this much of a stardom. That's how little I pay attention to Justin Bieber, just saying. But if we go over to the track listing for a sec, this is really just something unique. I mean, with what I'm about to say, I'm kind of clustering all the songs together outside of the singles, like I was like Daisies and Yukon, which is track number 2 and 3. There are some songs in here that I would potentially take off and put into a playlist for like a summertime playlist or a bop playlist, or like, hey, I want to go into this kind of style playlist of like hip hop or R&B or whatever. Daisies being one of them, which was the lead single. And honestly, it's so hard to pick out which. Well, I forget what the other one was, to be honest with you, because there is so many tracks that just sound the same to me on here, especially when you get towards like the middle, not necessarily at the end, but just towards the ending of the album, like the title track Swag. I there's so much forgettable on here for me that I could just not care enough about to going through it over and over again. I was like, Jesus, like this is really just painful because I'm not in that world. I'm not in the world of like R&B and current state of pop music and stuff, outside of a few artists, but not really a lot. But there's outside of the hit single Daisies, and maybe the other single was Yukon, maybe because it samples like a song by the doo-wop quartet Danny and the Juniors, for those of you who are keeping track at home. I did a little research afterwards too. But outside of those 2 hit singles, this album just doesn't do much for me. It just really is kind of like it's just noise, unfortunately. And it's just, for me, it's not rhythmic. It's not really that really structured as well. The one thing I wanted to touch on too is that the interludes, like Things You Do, or is it Soulful, and Glory Voice Memo, Therapy Session, Standing on Business, and Zuma House and Forgiveness, all these little interludes, they just didn't do much for me. They just didn't do much at all to help my experience of listening to this album of tracks that are just really, really forgettable. Honestly, I cannot go back and listen to a single song on here except for Daisies because it's been played over the radio. That's really my initial impression of the track listing and how these songs are. Dare I say it, gentlemen, we've reached a point in this show where I can honestly say I cannot remember a single track outside of Daisies, outside of one track on this record. That's kind of bad. And when you do that to music, it's kind of a crime, if you will, in my opinion. Like, that you can't, like, it's so difficult to explain. But for me personally, I just don't understand why this, like, the interludes, the beats were just forgettable. The whole thing was just forgettable. And the fact that it's 54 minutes long is just something else. I cannot believe that it took me 2.5, maybe almost 3 weeks to go through this and be like, oh yeah, let me listen to this. This was crazy boring for me. Before I say anything to make tons of screaming girls angry, even more angry at me, Kyle, why don't you take it away from here, buddy?
Yeah, I'll be with you on the Daisies point, where that's really one of the only 2 songs from here that I take away. Again, having enjoyed songs from his past, select songs from his past 2 or 3 albums, was expecting a bit more on here, especially considering the album's like 20-something tracks long. I mean, a decent chunk are pointless interludes, which really don't add anything. But where this album does excel a little bit are the songs like Daisies or Go Baby, which are really the only 2 tracks that I would come back to on this. And that's just my style. I think it excels when he goes for like this nice chill song to vibe out to. Both those songs kind of remind me of something you would just kind of have on like a lazy summer drive or like just chilling on the beach. They're nothing special, but they have some nice relaxing melodies and okay backing instrumentals on those. That's really where the extent of my enjoyment of the album came in. I think there's a lot of just mid tracks on here, like All I Can Take, being the opener, almost has like a 90s throwback boy band style on it, but it lacks anything exciting and remains completely stagnant throughout. Couple nice melodies on there, but that's really it. The album really starts to fall apart though and become honestly bad about halfway through. And then towards the end, a lot of these songs just is starting with like Devotion and then Dad's Love and Sweet Spot. That whole run are just super messy, incoherent attempts at whatever he's doing here with terrible features. I gotta say, I'm not one for albums with tons of features on them. I always think it comes off as lazy and cash grabby. But this one in particular, I don't think there was a single feature on here that added anything to the songs. Actually, I think they all were worked in, against the songs themselves, specifically that Sexy Red feature on Sweet Spot. That was awful. That was one of the worst features I think I've ever heard on a mainstream artist track. The terrible song, terrible lyrics. That verse that she spits out there is horrendous. Probably, honestly, I think the worst thing that's ever been put on a Bieber track is that Sexy Red verse. But it was a disappointing listen for me, especially considering the album did start somewhat okay. Like I said, All I Can Take is kind of mid. Daisies was decent. Go Baby I liked. And Yukon, I will say I don't understand the appeal of this single. This is one of the other low points for me. Really bad minimalist instrumental on it that I just don't like. The whatever vocal effect that they have on him is super annoying and grating. Also terrible lyrics. It's an album to me that I didn't expect too much on, but I expected to like a little bit more than I did, especially with the surprise drop that they did. And I thought it was going to be a little bit more mature of an album, which some tracks do show that, and then others just show I don't know what he was thinking or trying to really write about on some of these. So that's my essentially whole thoughts on this record.
Mike, is there any redeeming quality for this?
I'm just gonna jump the gun and sum my whole review up because mine's gonna be pretty quick. It's a tough album to get through. Musically, lyrically, feels like it was made in GarageBand over the weekend at a lot of times, stock beats with just barely singing, barely musical in a lot of ways. Like there's not a lot of like development and composition. It just feels like someone noodling on their guitar by themselves, soulfully singing at times. Other times, it just really does not embrace a full album, but more like Kyle was saying, a minimalistic kind of throwback 90s slow jam kind of song. Yukon was such a boring song to me, just waiting for something to happen, but it really just doesn't. This album definitely embraces that element on a lot of like songs that just minimalist involvement, like Go Baby as well. I think just the stock beats and singing alone or the soulful guitar, it feels like in a lot of ways he's trying to recapture the old sound that maybe he knows from the past that he never was really into when he started. And now he wants to kind of prove that he's like this artist who has the ability to kind of go back and maybe like prove that he can do it and include it with like kind of the pop feel. And it just comes off like he's just trying to, oh, I'm soulful. By the way, I have a song called Soulful. And the guy's mentioning me being soulful. Cool. Thanks for the validation, bro. It's like, all right, how obvious can you get when you're just trying to understand that? Butterflies, it has an upbeat. It's one of the more upbeat songs, a song that I actually was like kind of okay with, but it just kind of treads water. It doesn't really achieve anything, but it just kind of goes along. Overall, first place to me was last place, to be honest. It was just a noise beat, just barely. The synths are so buried. A lot of the music is buried, and that's the problem with the album, is it's not interested in being an album with lots of like rich sounds. It's just doing its thing. It's like stale. Oh, that one, Kyle, the sweet spot lowered my IQ several points. Like, I'm still trying to recover from that. Um, you know, it was just a rough album to get through. What was the song? I think it was "Walking Away." It felt like a kind of a Taylor Swift song, like the Dead Poets, whatever, Society, whatever it's called. Dead Poets Society. It was just kind of plodding along. Overall, this album was it's just not my thing. It's not really interested in really being a music based album, more of just a soulful serenade and just this kind of thing. So I'm just gonna give my that's 3.5 for me, just to kind of wrap it up and close the book on it. Not much to chew off the bone, but more, I think it was just him re-gripping on the past, saying I can do this, and I'm still legitimate. I'm not just a one-trick pony, when it comes to like just a pop sound and no other elements. So yeah, 3.5 for me.
Yeah, and I'll build off Mike on that and just give my rating. I'm at a 4 on it, just ever so slightly higher than Mike, but really not much. It has a couple tracks on it that have some promise, but overall, this is just a messy project. I don't really see the artistic thought put into it. I think is also part of it. It just screams like noodling around, like Mike said. Like, give the guy GarageBand, give him like Pro Tools, and just see what he spits out there. And maybe his fans like it. I don't really know, but this was not for me.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off both of you. And you need to say that this was just a disaster. I'm going to be the villain. I'm going to say this is a 2.5 out of 10 for me. This is just, when you can listen to an album that is an hour long and not remember one thing or one element or one track, that is bad. Regardless of how objective you feel about the artist, that is, for me, that's unforgivable. Like, if you can listen to an album that's an hour and a half long or an hour long or 30 minutes long, however long it is, doesn't matter how long it is. If you can listen to an album and not remember anything from it, you have done yourself you've done yourself a favor and wasted time. that is the most precious commodity you have out there, is time. This is a disaster. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. I am the villain tonight for Justin Bieber.
2.5 or 2.
I'm going down to 2. Screw this.
Oh, he just adjusted. Wow, live adjustment, folks. Wow.
Live adjustment right there, ladies and gents. Children of all ages who listen to us. No, but 2 out of 10. This is a disaster. It's just literally just GarageBand. Throw Justin Bieber with their laptops. Oh, I can do this. Great. You failed miserably, Bieber. Failed. Yes. Anything else, guys, for Justin Bieber's Swag album?
Nothing.
Nope.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for watching, listening, however you enjoy us tonight. That's the next one to tune into our podcast, as always. The Q&A podcast is not back yet. I know that for a fact, so don't worry. Kyle told me that weeks ago, and that's okay. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. We'll simply at the Super Review Show on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like what we see here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube as well, simply at the Super Review Show. I want to thank the two gentlemen for doing this podcast with me as always. Kyle and Mike, your knowledge of music goes unmatched every single week. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Got it.
And but for all of us here, the Super Review Show guys, please out there, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
Yes. Woo.
Woo.